Shavua Tov, Good Vach. Welcome to the second episode of the Jewish Mitzvahs podcast.
I think it's mitzvahs at this point.
Mitzvah Fits.
Mitzvahs. Uncle
Mitzvah
Moshe's
Fits.
mitzvahs. Join the trade.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, right.
A little Uncle Moshe jingle.
Moshe.
Copyrighted by Suki Ending Productions.
That's right. I'm your moderator, Gabe Lou, and joined as always by
Riff Gaster.
and
Yitz.
today's episode is sponsored by Crystal Clear Occasions, event planning done right. crystalclearoccasions.com. Follow on Instagram for more information. Okay, we are recording this on the Sunday night after Thanksgiving. So, Yitz, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was cool.
Yeah, tell us about it.
I went with my daughter to an indoor water park. Before that, I had off from work. That's nice.
Mhm.
And I didn't have any turkey. But the weekend before, I did like a Friendsgiving with Vega. I don't know if anyone else here was there. Were you there?
Nope.
No. That was really nice. Just everyone hanging out, bunch of friends, turkey. It was a Shabbos meal, but it was a turkey.
It's like Thanksgiving is like every Shabbos.
Right.
You know, the rest of the world is like, oh my God, Thanksgiving, all this cooking I have to do. We're like, this is nothing.
Although turkey is very hard to do.
It is very difficult to cook a turkey.
Anyways, that's for me.
Riff Gaster, how was your Thanksgiving?
Same also. So I had a nice Friendsgiving Shabbos the weekend before. Went to New Jersey. It was like 50 people, rented a mansion, and we all spent a beautiful Shabbos together. So that was great. And for the actual Thanksgiving day, my kids were with their father. So I ended up going to see Wicked with a friend.
Very cool.
Tell us about it. Gabe.
We'll hear about it later. We'll do our wicked
Yes.
takes later.
I actually loved it, but that's also because I don't have anything to compare it to. I did not go to see the show, so I just enjoyed it. I was a little bit surprised. I didn't know it was just the part one. I didn't realize.
3 hours for part one.
Right. So that was half of my day. And for the other half, I went to see a friend, Jordana. Had a really nice meal with a few people from all over different places, all over Maryland, actually, which was very nice. Got to meet new people, and it was really nice.
I was going to go to that, but last minute I ended up going. Yeah. How was that, by the way? Like, what kind of crowd did she end up attracting?
It was a very mixed, diverse crowd.
As is usual with her.
Right, which is always nice because we get to expand our circles, and I get to add some new people to our current
Oh,
circles. So
Is that when it said
excited.
this number added to group? Is that what that was? You were just networking.
That's right. Every opportunity.
Gabe.
Yeah, and I actually had a friend who came from New York to spend Thanksgiving and the weekend here, and I have to say he says that he loves the Baltimore community. I have to say that I have to agree with that. Baltimore is an awesome community. For those who don't know it yet, come check it out. And yeah, so that was very nice too.
Fantastic.
We were just talking about that also. How I think people in New York, like there's, I don't know, I guess we're speaking for what I know, but like there isn't the same type of community in the singles, whatever crowd.
I mean, that's a whole other episode, I think. But you say New York, right? But New York could mean Brooklyn. It could mean different neighborhoods of Brooklyn.
Yes.
It can mean Manhattan. It could mean different parts of Queens. It can mean Long Island. It can mean Five Towns. It can mean so many different places.
All of the above.
All of the above. And so
Right.
and segueing, I spent Shabbat with my brother up in Teaneck, and Teaneck is also maybe New York in some ways too.
Right.
Very nice time with them. Got to see my 2 nephews and 2 nieces, and the cousins got to play together, which was really cool. I also saw Wicked with my kids Saturday night. I'll save my take on that for later. And then for Thanksgiving, I was with our friend Rachel. Invited
Rachel Levy.
Yeah.
Nice.
She invited me and the kids over, and she had her friends over that are also in school with my kids. So it was really nice. Lot of food, but it was a great time.
Are there any
Nice.
leftovers still?
I don't know. She kept those. There was a movie I did see before Thanksgiving that I really, really liked. I went to see this movie called A Real Pain. that was written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg. If you've ever seen The Social Network, he plays
Yeah, I saw the trailer. It looks
Right.
really good.
and it is about two cousins, Jewish cousins, who are not religious, who their grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and she has just passed away recently, and the two cousins decide to go on a heritage trip to Poland to visit the concentration camps, the cities in Poland that she was from, and to find her home that she lived in when she was a child. And it's really an interesting movie about just family and family dynamics and trying to connect to something when you had no connection to it in the first place, and sort of the triviality and the meaninglessness sometimes of some of these things, but also the depth and meaning from trying to find your roots. Really, really riveting movie. It's only 90 minutes also, so if you want to not go for 3 hours,
What's it called?
it's called A Real Pain. And it was fantastic. I was laughing and crying the entire time. It was great.
That's cool.
Okay, let's get into it. This topic for our podcast this week is Jewish life post-divorce. So if you are not a divorced person, have fun listening to us opine about divorce.
All the
I
people.
think it's still important
It
for
is
people
important.
who are not divorced just to
The people.
hear our side of the story and just learn to appreciate people and their different struggles, because everybody goes through different kind of challenges, and it doesn't matter what you go through. You all go through pain and trauma, and you have triggers every day, and I think it's important for people to understand what other people are going through. So
I agree. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by each of us kind of sharing our own personal journey of what Jewish life means for us post-divorce, whether that's religious observance, communal, how we interact with the community, what does it mean for us culturally, sort of give our before and after picture of ourselves, and then we'll dive into some other topics that might be fun. And do you want to start yet?
Were we diving in?
Yeah, we're diving in.
Jewish life after divorce. Jewish, emphasis on Jewish.
Mhm.
So Jewish. I mean, so for me, Jewish life after divorce specifically was not particularly Jewish, but it was life. It was like a new kind of life. It's a lot of just like, okay, I'm in the world, but I will say that it was also uniquely Jewish, because at that time I was finally, in a sense, like free to kind of go explore the world. And what I discovered is that there's a lot of Jewish people out there that are just kind of Jewish, and it's less religious. And I think that was cool for me, because even though I was not religious while I was married, towards the end of my marriage, I was no longer religious, but I hadn't really been exposed to that world of just tons of Jewish people who were unaffiliated or affiliated on various levels or degrees. And I think being divorced and being out there and, meeting people in New York and New Jersey and just locally also, like finding people who were Jewish and realizing, oh, they're Jewish. They take care of this identity, so to speak. They tend towards that identity, even though it's not at all a religious thing. And I think that was surprising for me, coming from the background that I came from. Like, your Jewish identity was very much wrapped around your religious practices, your religious beliefs. And then all of a sudden being in the world and discovering all these single people and married people who were just Jewish and like they cared. I think that was fascinating. I don't think that's really tied to my divorce, but I think it was, in the sense that I was finally like exploring the world as like a independent person. I don't know if that would have been possible as someone who was married. I mean, maybe it really depends on the relationship, but at least not for me.
So how would you like characterize your Jewishness, since it's kind of divorced from the religion a little bit? What would you say how would you kind of define your own Jewishness at this point?
At this point, it's just Jewish, and it's like, it's more recently, it's like, actually, I'm very yeshivish. And you can't, like, trying to discover that identity and not be something that I'm not, like, it doesn't really fit me to be like the traditional Jew, because that version of Shabbos, their Shabbat is not my Shabbat. Their Shabbat is almost the same thing as Christmas to me. It's like, right, you guys are doing Shabbat, and it's like, you have like a challah, but then you have like, I don't know, then you're having pizza or like like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have like a good reference of something that was like not totally what I had. But yeah, like if you ever go to a conservative, like I one time went to a conservative like show just to check it out. I'm like, well, let's see what this is. I'm like, this is so bad. Like this is terrible. I'm like, the Orthodox people have it down way better. First of all, the songs are better. The kids just seem happier. Everyone's more alive, and like the food's much better too. So I kind of got a bad deal over here. And so try to find Judaism and
Like the leftovers.
right, it's the leftovers. Oh my gosh.
To all my reform conservative friends, I do not endorse.
Dude,
You're
right.
great. I love you. All my cousins, all conservative, reform. It's all.
Well, I think that's more recent where I'm realizing the version of Judaism that I grew up with is the one that I am most connected with. The music, the songs. I still sing, Kabach music. I mean, unfortunately, that has a tainted association. But like, this is how I connect to Judaism. Like, it's that particular sect is what I'm most familiar with. The yeshiva guy, I can talk a conversation with him. It's just harder to find them, the ones that are less religious. Those are the best, by the way. But so yeah, but like me trying to fit into a Jewish identity which is not orthodoxy is just as confusing as trying to actually be religious when I don't believe in it. So I don't know. I think that was an interesting journey that I went on where I was like, okay, let's just like, first of all, like realizing that Judaism is something as an identity, that it stands independent of your religiousness. That was like a discovery in and of itself. And I think like having friends who are Israeli and family who's Israeli really helps build that foundation, because you see that it doesn't revolve around your religious practices. It's just kind of like you're a Jew, and that's like you're trying to figure out, okay, so what does that mean? And you figure that out. But beyond that, yeah, more lately, I'm like, I kind of leaning back more to the yeshivishness, not in a religious way, but in like a cultural way. Like all these things that I've been talking about, cutting your toilet paper on shops, like the insider joke, so to speak, where like cholent is the food and like eating pizza on Motzei Shabbos. And that's kind of like realizing like, this is my culture. These are my people, the music, even the way that people think and the way that people talk. It's like, these are cultural things.
Mm-hmm.
Us yeshivish people think in a very weird way. Like our brains are wired very deeply through yeshiva, through our childhood, to think and like interact and socialize in a certain way. And it's really hard to break that. Like I still feel like a weirdo going into the world and trying to talk to people. And I'm like, I don't really know this place. Like, so yeah.
You're saying good.
Oh, Taka. Nura Vaisai. Let's make a kiddish. I don't know.
Guys, I feel left out.
Oh, sorry.
Professor, you're pretty sheepish too.
Ish.
Yeah,
Ish.
ish.
Emphasis on the ish.
Why don't you tell us about your journey?
So first of all, when I started thinking about this topic, I asked myself, what is it about divorce, specifically divorce, as opposed to any other major changes in life in general, that caused this catalyst to a major change in the Jewish lifestyle? Because I feel like I've started like observing people around me, and I see a lot of people who make major changes in their Jewish lifestyle after divorce. I mean, quote me if I'm wrong, and there might be other major times in maybe during school or maybe through work or whatever it is. And I asked myself, like, what is it about divorce that caused that? And I was thinking about it, and I thought that to me it was a little bit like a mini death. And what I mean by that is that there's a death of old dreams, death of old expectations, death of an old Jewish life that you had, whether it's yeshivish lifestyle, whether it's a modern Orthodox lifestyle, whatever it is. I think I consider all of us, once we become adults, I think we all are Baalei Teshuvah, because at some point in our lives, I strongly believe that we have to make a conscious choice. Do I want to continue on this path? Do I want to continue this lifestyle, or do I want to change? Am I looking for something different for my life and for my family? And I think just in general, when people go through death and go through, you go to a funeral, you go to a shiva, you start asking yourself questions, and you start pondering on the meaning of life and the meaning of your own personal life. And I think at this time, you start questioning all those things you've been doing for years, and that includes for all of us who grew up Jewish, mostly from, that's a big part of our life, right? So we started questioning, like, like, what am I doing? What was I doing all those years? Why was I doing it? And what do I want to do in the future? And I think just in general, I grew up with my mother, who was herself a Baalei Teshuva. Both my parents were Baalei Teshuva, but I grew up with my mother mostly. And she took her religiosity a little bit to the extreme, which means I grew up in a very dry and black or white Jewish lifestyle. It was do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. There was no explaining, there was no love, there was no warmth, there was no excitement, there was no happiness. So, of course, I'm turning away from this lifestyle and I want something different. I still love the religious lifestyle. Do I observe everything? No. I've gone down a lot in my religious lifestyle. But I think
I would say modified.
Modified. I like that.
Evolved.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit, but I don't want to judge ourselves too much.
Okay.
I mean, what does it mean to go down in your religiosity if there are people who are more religious than us but are also horrible people?
True.
But anyway, continue.
Okay. So yeah, I never hated religion. I actually really enjoyed, like, I went to religion. I mean, I went to Beis Yaakov, I went to Chabad schools. I loved learning. I still do. I still love going to shiurim. I still love learning text. I really love it. But I think as a person, and I think as a whole, like, I'm seeing this a lot. I think there's been a switch from religion to relationship. And I think that's what I'm trying to build, because it's not only a relationship with God and with religion in general, but it means that I also have to question my relationship with myself, relationship with family members, relationship with my kids, and relationship with myself. So overall, that's just a major switch.
It's like a switch from a perspective on being religious for the sake of meeting the religious requirements to figuring out where religion fits into somehow a relationship with yourself or the people around you.
It's discovering what is meaningful and what isn't meaningful as much anymore.
Yeah.
I think
I remember, I think I get a little personal for a minute. I remember the week I finally told my husband at the time that I wanted a divorce and that it was over for good. I think it happened on a Monday. And that Friday, when I lit candles, the Shabbos candles, I broke down. Like, I cried. And I just share that just because it's regardless of the relationship that you had in the marriage, like whether there was some good and some bad, whether it was all dysfunctional, whether it was some, like, it doesn't matter. I think it was just because it was a point where I realized that I had to do something very different than what I had, and it was the end of an era, and I was going to start something new, and just ending something and saying goodbye to something, and like I said earlier, mourning something. It was a big deal. And I think just dealing with that trauma, it is some kind of a trauma. I think is part of why there is a lot of changes in observance and religious lifestyle after divorce.
I wanted to respond to what you were saying about lighting the Shabbos candles. I actually had a very interesting experience also, right the first Shabbos when my ex, like, she moved out with my daughter, and it was my first Shabbos being on my own. And you would think, like, I had been on my own, like, I had gone away with friends before, but it was my first time being home. It's so scary to say it. It's like, it's so And I was like, should I light the Shabbos candle? I'm not religious at all. I hadn't been for a while, but I'm like, it's Shabbos. Like, it's like, do I want to like keep these little things around me to like make me feel warm and cozy? And I was like, if I light Shabbos candles, I'm going to be so depressed. Like, I do not want to feel the sadness of a generational like tradition that I'm going to do alone. Like, this is so deeply like hurtful. Not in like a mean way. It just like, I don't want to do this to myself. Like, it's one thing if I was with family and I had a friend over and be like, fine, I'll light the Shabbos candles. Like, I'll have that like warmth, that feeling of like being at home with family. But like, if I'm doing it purely out of this tradition, all I'm going to think about is like the sadness of like the generations of people who lit these Shabbos candles. And like, I don't know, I'm not going to feel good. I'm just going to feel sad. And I was like, yeah, I'm not lighting Shabbos.
So for you, it's like a more of a negative association with those little.
It's a positive one, but it was one that I felt like at the time it would have been too painful to put myself through. Like, it's something where it was like trying to get like this warm and yummy feeling of like being with like family, but I was all alone. I was completely alone. I was like, my ex is not here, right? I'm getting divorced. My daughter's not here. I don't have any friends with me. It's my first job as being completely on my own. And no, this was like, I hadn't yet expanded my social network into like a bigger place where I had friends to go and hang out with. And like, it was just like an early stage of like being alone, like being on my own in a new way. Like, my whole life I've been in yeshiva. I've never been on my own. I was always with somewhere, something, someone. Not to say that I didn't feel alone then. I did. I felt very alone in yeshiva too. Like, I felt isolated for a long time. But this was like a whole new level, like completely alone. And I think I had a few friends that I could message on Shabbos then, but it was way less than I have now. Call out the shout out to the Shabbat phone friends. You guys are lifesavers. If you ever need a friend on Shabbos. But yeah, so it was just reminding me what you're saying about lighting the Shabbos candles and crying. It's like, I didn't light it because I couldn't cry. Like, I don't know. I feel like women are more like embracing of their emotions, and they're able to like tolerate the pain that they might incur by putting themselves through like an emotionally difficult experience. Me, I'm like, if I do that, I'm gonna completely lose myself. I can't go there. But
What about now?
now now I'm like less attached to it from like I wouldn't do it. Like, my daughter comes, I'll do it with her. Like, she wants to light the candles, but like for myself, I realize that it's not something that I would really do for myself. Like, it doesn't give me that warm and I was thinking about it. I'm like, would it really give me the warm and fuzzy feeling that I want? No. So I'm not going to do it. If I'm with friends and family and we're all having a Shabbat meal, I'm like, someone should light the candles. Like, this is part of what we do. This is the tradition. But for myself personally, I think I've discovered that is not really going to be something that I'm going to feel like I'm getting a big hug. It's just not going to do it for me. So, yeah.
It's an interesting thing to like think about how what we're really talking about is how we emotionally connect. Not so much intellectually,
Right.
but a lot of what the post-divorce has been an emotional connection.
What about you, Gabe?
Well, I have a
very different upbringing.
very, very different, because I grew up I grew up walking to shul on Shabbos, to the Orthodox shul, but
Taking pictures.
I have pictures of me doing it. So I went to a conservative synagogue for about 10 years, and my father was the chazan of that synagogue for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur for like 30 years. And a lot of my friends growing up were Reform and Reconstructionists. So I went to these synagogues. My cousins I have Florida cousins who are Reform. I have Florida cousins who are conservative. I have cousins who are Orthodox. So I've been literally to all these different kinds of things, and I have a lot of exposure to it. So when I became Orthodox, when I chose a religious lifestyle 21 years ago, it was a real choice that I had put myself through like 2 years of real discovery. I'd gone to Israel, I'd done Birthright, I'd done a religious retreat, and I had asked all the questions that really were bothering me about Judaism. So when I chose Judaism, I chose it as an intellectual and emotional thing, as an adult. It wasn't like this thing that was thrust upon me as a child. If anything, it was one of those things where like my parents like, really, you too? Because my brother became religious when he was 14. And he's younger than I am. So he became religious when he was 14. I'm in college and having a blast, and he's going to yeshiva, and at this point, he doesn't even consider himself a Baal Tshuva. He considers himself from birth, because
He was
his
young.
entire social life from the age of 14 until 41 has been in this sort of modern Orthodox yeshivish, YU kind of lifestyle. And that's what he is. But I'm not. I kind of, that's why I'm a real misfit here, because I don't really fit into the yeshiva world. I've tried. And that's kind of what Jewish life was pre-divorce versus post-divorce. I was wearing black suit, black hat, black velvet yarmulke, wool talit katan, going to a very yeshivish synagogue here in Baltimore, that I have a lot of respect for, and I love the Rav, but I don't attend that shul anymore. And post-divorce, it's been a real shift, not so much in my religious practice, although there is some religious stuff that I have kind of let go, and we'll talk about that in our next segment. But it's more been like pre-divorce, I was living a shell of myself. I didn't go out for any Shabbos meals because we were never invited out. Not because people didn't invite us, but we never accepted. My ex did not want to go anywhere. We didn't invite anybody in, and she would go to sleep right after candlelighting. And so I spent the last 6 years of my marriage having Friday night dinner by myself at home, and every Shabbat meal at home with no guests, and Yontif meals with no guests. And we didn't have my parents come in. My parents basically weren't really allowed to come and visit us, and we didn't go to them. The only people we went to family-wise was my ex's mother, and we would fly there to Santa Barbara and spend Yom Tovim with her mother, and I didn't have any family around. And so my post-divorce life has been reawakening the relationships that I was suppressing, finding the community, not only the divorcee singles community, which has been an absolute blessing to find. And I think if we're trying to recommend anything, I think it would be to try to find ways that we can make our community more accessible, because it took me a while to find everybody. But finding that community, just saying to people, I'm available for Shabbos again. And the first time I spent Shabbat with my kids, boy, it was so good. It was so good. Because I hadn't had like a Friday night dinner with my kids ever. They're 6, and they were 6 years old and 9 years old, and I had never had a Friday night dinner with them, ever.
Why they would always go to.
They would always be in bed. Prior,
And now you can like.
And now I could like live the kind of Jewish life that I'd always wanted to, taking them to shul and going out to guests, like, and getting to, my kids were forced into a very rigid and unhealthy eating diet, which I was able to ease them out of over 2 years. They never got to try any of my cooking, and I love to cook. Some of you have had, been to my house, and
Bar mitzvah.
yeah, and they never ate anything. The first time they ever came to my house after we got divorced, I cooked them dinner, and they were afraid to eat it because they were trained not to eat cooked food. And it's been a kind of a reclamation project for me, of reclaiming what it means for me to be Jewish religiously, culturally, to learn to invite people and to have Friday night meals and have Shabbat lunches and go out again, and learning what kind of Judaism I enjoyed practicing, because I do keep Shabbos still, and I love keeping Shabbos, and it's actually been the reason some of the relationships I've been in have not worked out is because I still want to keep Shabbos, and not everybody I've dated wants to.
We gotta tell me who these people are. But
Maybe I'll tell you
Off
later.
record.
Off record. But just like that, sometimes that becomes the sticking point. Is that I've kept Shabbos, I've kept kashrus, and a few other things too.
it sounds like you were finally like. I feel also like I was free in the sense that now I can
Yeah.
explore. And in your world, it was free to do the things religiously that you wanted to.
Correct, because I had been down that road. Like I've lived the life of knowing what it's like to not keep kosher and not keep Shabbos and have that freedom. And I use that in air quotes because I felt very unfree. I felt so lost because there was no direction. And this gives me sort of an anchor point that if nothing else, for me, I know that Shabbos is Kodesh. I know that keeping kosher is something that anchors me. That learning Torah anchors me. Everything else, we can negotiate.
I think it all ties nicely to what Rav Guster you were saying in the beginning. Wow, like I feel like the divorce opens up this world where you have space for relationships as opposed to just religious. And maybe in your case it wasn't so religious; it was more like some sort of rigidity where now you're free to like explore.
I don't know why, but I'm feeling like as frum Jews, or frum Jews in general, we have this fear of letting go of this rigidity of just you got to do it because we have to do it, and bringing in this feeling of warmth and love and excitement, and it's beautiful. Shabbos is beautiful. I love Shabbos, and same like I'm just realizing how much I have in common with what you were saying. Same when I was married, I had no social life. We were not inviting people. We were barely going out.
And for you to tell me that you weren't inviting people is like,
Exactly.
this is who you are.
This is who I am, and I was so suffocated. I can't think of another word. I was stifled, suffocated, and I was just
Like an empty shell of yourself.
yeah.
That's what it felt like.
That's what it felt like, and it's just like just being able to finally like just that first Shabbos, like when I was finally on my own, I was like, wow, what do I do now? where are my peers? Where's everybody?
Yeah, where is everybody?
And I think that's when I started thinking, well, I have a feeling, I don't know where they are. I don't know that they exist, but I have a feeling that there might be some people like me in the world. And that's when I started, well, what if I could just ask around and find people to just spend Shabbos together and just get together and bring this love of Yiddishkeit? Because I mean, I want to improve my relationship with God and Yiddishkeit in general. Like it's just, there's so much beauty in it. No, it's not perfect, and community has a lot to improve on for sure, but there's so much beauty in it that I just want to share it with the world, and I want to share it with myself.
I think this is a great moment for a l'chaim.
Oh, we need to do our l'chaim.
We got to do our l'chaim.
Okay, we prepared something, right?
And then we're gonna get into some more fun segments. Gosh.
This one.
Our perfectionist.
Tell me when it's good.
Keep going.
Okay.
Look at this. I bet you've never seen a podcast that had special tables with a special insert for wine glasses to have a l'chaim on the podcast.
I want you to pour it right by here so we can get some good ASMR.
Okay, ready? Isn't that good? Do you want more?
Yeah, a little bit.
This was heavy.
This is some heavy stuff.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagefen.
Amen.
L'chaim. Cheers.
Time to my wonderful co-host, to the Jewish Misfits, to building a better, bigger community.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, and on that note, I'm going to ask you to tell us something you've kept and something you've left. Rav Kester.
Just one.
Just one for now.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go with Shabbos just because that's something I really connect with. Specifically the singing on Shabbos. But the bringing people together, the atmosphere of just not. It's like God is giving us the opportunity to just take off from the world, take off from the busyness of the world, and it's like for me, it's a gift. It's like no matter where you're working, like no boss is going to you say, by the way, I'd love for you to just take a day off. Like, wouldn't it be nice? Well, God is giving that to us one day every week, and I just love that.
And something you've left.
Just one.
Just one.
I'm probably gonna say snares. Is that a thing?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I just
Could you be more specific about that? Like, calling it sneeze is a highly debated, you know?
As she's wearing a shirt with long sleeves and a skirt right now.
I started wearing pants in like outside in public. I think it's more like the physical clothing. Maybe honestly, I don't know. Does Shamanikia touch upon that? Like
I said just one.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not good at instructions. That's why I didn't do so well in school.
Maybe this is a good time for me to tell everybody how Rivka, Esther, and I met.
What? Wait, what? I don't know the story.
No, we were at a party. We were at a Thursday night party at Esther's, and I didn't know Rivka Esther. She was there, and I didn't really know anybody. And in our late night drunkenness, Rivka Esther comes over and goes like this, and she touches me on my arm, and I'm like, what?
I have no recollection.
She has no recollection of this, but I have this clear in my mind. I'm like, and that was it. She and then she started laughing about it, and I was like, okay, that just happened. And I had no idea what to make of it because I was like, true story.
So much for Shomanagia.
Okay, yeah, it's something you've kept, something you've left in Judaism.
So I've been thinking about it. I recently moved to a new apartment, and in that process, I had to consider bringing mezuzahs. And my old apartment had mezuzahs in every single doorway. And I was thinking about, do I really want to put mezuzahs on my apartment? Like, I don't believe in this. This is like really old superstitious thing that like, obviously it doesn't do anything for anyone. And, whatever. So cut the criticism. I was thinking about it. I was like, I had a few conversations with some other people who are not religious. And I was like, I think having one on the front door would be nice. And so I've kept on to that, and mostly out of like a cultural, this is what Jews in America do, not just in America, but in the world. We've done this, and it's like kind of putting up like an Israeli flag outside of your house, but it's a little bit more subtle, and it shows that you're connected to this thing on some level. And obviously, if you're in the frum community, you make a lot of assumptions. Oh, he has a mezuzah on the door, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I don't like when people make those assumptions about me because I'm not that. But I was like, on a more fundamental level, I would put a mezuzah. Like, I stand for this Jewish thing. I am a part of it. I am connected to it. And this is something that signifies that. I don't care what the letters are upside down or right side up, who wrote them and when they wrote them, what they were thinking when they wrote them. But with green eggs at have, I have. But so that's something I guess I could say I held on to it. That was a more recent thing, and I actually had this conversation with Kitty. I don't know. She also had like a similar insight. She's also not religious, and we were talking about it. But I don't think she goes by Kitty, by the way. She goes by Tay. Besides for that,
and just one thing
that I left behind.
That you left behind.
So here's the thing: I was not religious already when I was still married. Like by the end of my marriage, I was already not religious. I would say that though my mindset then was more like I'm not religious, but like from like a intellectual space, like this is not really a thing. Like kosher is not really kosher because what the Torah says this, it means that, and we're doing something that's totally different. Like I've dismantled the rabbinical historical evolution of what is now called halacha. I'm like, this thing is made up in the last 300 years. by multiple interpretations, and that's out the window. So I would say, what did I leave behind? Probably just all of that, and just be like, actually, like the whole thing is just like a beautiful man-made construction that I'm not really like abiding to it. I don't find it binding to me. It's like a beautiful concept, but also a lot of it is ridiculous. So probably left that all behind. Like like while I was still married, I wasn't religious, but it was from like a detailed halachic dismantling space, and now it's just like, nah, I don't really do that thing. And like I found a new way of looking at Judaism, which is like more traditional, but not. When I say traditional, it's not what you're thinking or like what people think is traditional. It's like, no, like I connect with Jewishness and things that are like Jewish things, but I'm not like a traditional Jew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Yeshivish Jew.
A non-religious yeshiva.
A non-religious Yeshivish Jew.
Yeah, I hear it.
We need our own. I was talking about this with Rivka Esther. I came here on Shabbos with my daughter, and we were talking about how like more and more I'm thinking about the kind of girls that I connect with the most when I'm dating are the ones that also share this background, and I feel like it's really hard to find them because we don't have like our own, like gathering space. But I feel like
there's no WhatsApp group.
There. Here's the thing. There's like OTD groups, but like
Yeshivish group.
it has such a bad vibe and such a bad rep. I can't go on enough about it. How the OTD groups that are like 10 years old have such a bad rep. It's such a weird crowd. Sorry, I'm being very critical. It's not my type. The people that I'm meeting with and connecting with now are people that like are way more embracing of the fact that they are yeshivish. And they're like, this is just who we are. We just don't believe in it, and we want to live our like yeshivish lives, but we don't want to have to do it from a place of like, we have to do this
Obligation.
Right. It's like, well, we like a kumsitz. We want to do a kumsitz. We want to have a good Shabbos meal. We want a really good kiddush with like a fat cholent, right? Like we want to do these things, but like we don't want to feel like this has to happen, and we want to be able to like not tie our left shoe in our right shoe and be able to make a joke about that. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like. So anyways, that's, I guess, a different perspective.
I hear you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
L'chaim. I guess we're going to be doing a lot of these.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't spoken enough about like education, like the from education, the things we learned that just, I don't even know how to put this, but like all the things that I've learned in school or even through like college classes, like before getting married. I feel like a lot of the things slowly caused me to step away from it. Just because there were things that either maybe didn't make any sense, but because I'm not such an intellectual person, I'm more either related to the more emotional side of the things that I learned. And there were a lot of the things, right now I'm just thinking specifically like about marriage, about a frum marriage. And I realized how much it really created a lot of discomfort in the way I was looking at religion. Because I felt like I was forced to do it, otherwise I wouldn't be a good wife, or I was forced to do certain things. And maybe if I had at the time a more open-minded lifestyle and more open-minded, but which I didn't have because that's what I had been conditioned to think and feel and do for the first 25 years of my life.
Right.
But because we're so, I think it's a word, conditioned to behave a certain way, it's just very hard. And I think just post-divorce, I just realized, also because of the community building, because I started being more there and meeting other people like me, I was like, whoa, I thought I was crazy. It was just this feeling of like, whoa, I really thought I thought I was a misfit, but really I really fit in more with a lot of other people. And it was kind of like, it felt good, and like a little bit, I also felt a little bit angry at the time when I realized that. But it just kind of felt good too, just knowing that I wasn't alone in this. And but also angry at the whole.
And I think this is a broader topic that we can get
Yeah.
more into, but I've been, because I worked in Jewish education for many years, and I have, my life's goal became, career-wise, to be a Jewish educator, to be a principal in a Jewish day school. I wanted to be a Jewish leader in education, and a lot of things pushed me away from that. But I think the biggest thing was just me seeing that our educational system is built on fear. Everything we do in Jewish education, in most yeshiva and Beis Yaakov schools, is built on, we are afraid our kids are going to go off the derech. They're going to become not religious. And so every decision, both from the parental standpoint and from the school standpoint, and therefore the community standpoint, is how do we keep our kids from going off the derech? And therefore every decision we make is a decision based on fear rather than a decision based on what is right for the child. Because I've seen so many kids who were going off the derech, and then they were put into public school where their educational needs are actually being met, where they're not being talked down to for asking questions about evolution or science or any of these other things, and all of a sudden they're keeping Shabbos again. Well, maybe they're not yeshivish, but they're keeping Shabbos, they're keeping kosher, and they're keeping Judaism because there was an opportunity for them to ask the questions, to not be so bound by the rigidity of the system.
Or just maybe if we expanded that derech a little bit, maybe a lot less people would fall off of it.
You mean Dracheha Darchei Noam? There are many paths.
Correct.
Many paths. One of my
Well,
Rebbe,
Shvatim.
right? One of my said there are 12 Shvatim for a reason. There are 12 tribes, not because every single Jew has to be exactly the same.
Gabe, what are the things that you took with you? What's something you took with you? What's something left
Oh,
behind?
okay. So this might sound weird, but like I still wear tzitzis.
Okay.
Why is that weird?
I don't know. I know so many people who don't, just, that was one thing that they stopped doing. Maybe they keep kosher still, maybe they keep Shabbos still, but they're not going to. But for some reason, I still wear tzitzis every day. I still wear a yarmulke every day. I started wearing a yarmulke and tzitzis before I started keeping Shabbos. And I think, and people ask me all the time, do you wear a yarmulke to work? Because I work in public schools. And I say, yeah, I wear a yarmulke to work. And they're like, isn't that dangerous? I'm like, no, it's not dangerous. And people need to see that we're people too, that Jewish people exist. So
I was just going to say, I have to interrupt you, but apparently tzitzis is becoming like a really sexy thing these days. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's like a trend. I don't know. Maybe it's just younger people. Anyways, okay, go on.
Okay. And something that I got rid of real quick was Kolisha. Women singing. I am a musical theater person.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait, so how did you watch Wicked?
Well, no, I'm saying before, when I was married.
Oh, I got you.
I got a psak. I got I asked a rabbi the question, am I allowed to listen to women singing? And they said, of course not. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not listening to women singing anymore.
Gotcha.
And I was like a guy who loved musical theater. I love opera. I love classical music. And I was like, there was a moment of like, okay, I guess I'm never going to hear Beethoven's Ninth in person again. Okay, I'm never going to another musical ever again. And so as soon as I got divorced, I was like, I was like, that's
how we went down.
I'm done. I honestly do not care if I'm going to be like
me taking off my shit all the second after I got my get.
right. This is, I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but because we can argue it's ridiculousness, but for me, it's absolutely ridiculous. And no, absolutely not. And yeah,
I can't believe that you've endured that for so long.
Okay, so now next segment.
Yeah.
What is something that you did after you got divorced to treat yourself?
Wait, who's going first on this one?
Okay.
You can go.
Okay, I'll go first. Something I did post-divorce to treat myself. No, I'm going to stick with that. I decided real quick, I'm done with this and I'm going to do a musical. I'm going to go back and audition for a show and be in theater live with other people. That was something that was also repressed in my marriage, was told to give it up. And I did, because of Shalom Bayis, of trying to keep peace in the home. And I gave it up, and I decided, no, this is something that I need for me. In that reclamation project was I needed to do theater. So May of 2018, I moved out, and in June of 2018, I auditioned for Sweeney Todd at Beth Tefillah Community Theater, and did my first show as an actor in like 15 years.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Rifkester, how about you?
Just one.
Just one bottle
For
of
now.
wine.
I started traveling, and my first big travel for me was major. I went to Vegas in Mexico.
Ooh.
Uh,
Oh,
if-
I remember that trip by yourself, right?
Vegas
yes.
and Mexico.
1 week in Vegas, 1 week in Mexico. I actually have a really cool Hashgacha Pratis story over there if we have time in a minute. Oh, do we have time?
Yeah, we have time.
Indulgence,
Hey.
please.
So this is just a couple weeks after I just got my get. So I'm in I'm free mode.
Say it again. I'm free.
I'm like all excited. I'm traveling. So I'm going to Vegas first. And so I'm supposed to be there for a week. So I go there the whole week. I'm just going out to see show, just walking everywhere, having time of my life. And then Thursday comes, and I'm realizing I don't have any Shabbos plans. I had tried Chabad; they're not available that week. I tried to find people on Shabbat.com. I tried everything. Nothing's happening. It's Thursday night, and my hotel reservation ends Friday morning. So
Was this Vegas or was this
Vegas.
Okay.
That's Vegas. So I'm like, at that point I can either stay a couple more days in that hotel, or I could just try something else. At that point I was like, you know what, let me try something else. So I'm Googling, and I'm searching, and I'm finding this cool youth hostel nearby. So I was like, all right, let me go check it out. Sounds fun. Youth hostel in Vegas. I go and get my Uber to the youth hostel, and it's like ghetto Vegas. I'm like, I don't know what to do, but it's 2 hours before Shabbos, and I'm like, I don't know what else. Like, there's nothing else for me to do. So I go, I check in, I leave my stuff, and I run to the nearby local grocery store to get some food for Shabbos and some tea lights. I go back, get ready for Shabbos, and then I'm looking at the schedule of events at the youth hostel, and it's Friday night karaoke and vodka. Needless to say, it was a much better Kabbalah Shabbos. It was fun. Also, at the time, I wasn't exactly wearing a Shabbos robe, but that's besides the point. So I have my tea lights, and I'm bringing my tea lights to the lounge area where the karaoke is supposed to happen. And I'm the first one there, so there's a table, and I put my 2 tea lights in the middle of it, light the tea lights, and then just go sit down and see what's happening. And slowly people start coming in, and, you know, the room was dark. So people come in, and they're like, oh, it's dark. They're about to switch the light, but then they see the tea lights. They're like, oh, it's like a cool atmosphere here, and they turn it back off. So like my tea lights are like here lighting up the room. And then there's, you know, Diego, the Mexican guy with the big tattoos. And then there's, you know, like the tall basketball player who comes in. And there's the 2 lesbian girls coming in. And there's just like, it's just a crowd. Like, it's just really, a really cool crowd. But, you know, everybody's coming in for karaoke and vodka. And then towards the end, there's this girl who comes in, and tall, wearing pants. You know, she's coming in, and she's looking at the tea lights. She's like, these are cool. Like, whose are those? And I'm like, these are mine. She's like, are those Shabbat candles? And I'm like, yes, they are. Why are you asking? And she's like, what's your name? I'm like, my name is Rivka. What's your name? She's like, hi, my name is Rachel.
That's so cool.
I'm like, thank you, God. I know you see me.
That's
No matter how far I am, I know you're there. Think I'm finished? I'm not finished.
Okay.
Fast forward a couple days, I'm going to Mexico. And again, I'm having the time of my life, exploring everywhere, going to the beach, going on walking everywhere downtown. And then one day I decided to go and take this, combo tours with like horses and ATVs and whatever. And then there's this shuttle who picks you up from where you are and takes you to the place where the horseback riding is happening. So I go to the shuttle, I sit inside, and then the shuttle just picks up every person that signed up for that tour. So we pick up all those Mexicans and Americans and whatever, all those people coming in for those tours. And then the shuttle driver says one last stop, and he stops, and I'm looking outside, and there's this girl literally wearing a Besiakov outfit. Just like the blue shirt, black skirt, tights. I'm like, okay, what are you trying to say here? The girl comes in and she sits behind me, and I'm like, hi, what's your name? And she's like, my name is Haya. I'm like, hi, my name is Rivka Astor. And, what's the second question you ask someone you just meet? Where are you from?
Baltimore.
Guess what she says?
No way.
I'm from Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
Like, no way. This is my Hashgacha Pratu story. This is like this was like my time where I just started like transitioning from like my old life to like my freedom life. And it was like God was just saying, like, I've been there for you, and I know you love me, but just remember, I'll always be there for you. I'll watch over you no matter where you are. So yeah, that was my cute
Great story.
story.
That was amazing.
All right.
How did you treat yourself after your divorce? It doesn't have to necessarily be a Jewish thing.
Oh. I did a road trip with some friends to Florida. It was like the name of the group chat was called Let's Get Some Chazir. Yeah, it was honestly really weird. It was weird, but I also had some very interesting experiences on New Year's. It was a New Year's Eve trip to Miami Beach, Florida, and there was some weird stuff that happened. I think I might have told you this story. I'm not going to do the whole story now. It deserves its time.
Okay.
But basically, it was like, how like when you have a dream and like two things collide that don't really make any sense. Like in one room, you're with like you're at like a bar and there's like girls in bikinis, and then like 2 seconds later, you're in yeshiva. So like those things don't really make sense in real life. Well, that's really and it happens in like your dreams. Your mind is like doing. So that's kind of what happened in Miami. Like, yeah, it was really weird. But somehow, I ended up on a New Year's Eve from like trying to be at a party to ended up being in a yeshiva, and it was really weird. And I was like, "What is happening?" But anyways, yeah, that was my treat. I guess it was a nice trip. I didn't really do much to treat myself post divorce, other than being free, trying to get out there, reconnect with a lot of human beings that I knew they were there, but I was like, I can socialize again. I think that's the biggest thing. I see it's like a common trend.
Yeah.
At least for people like me and you who are like social butterfly people and like kind of desperate for like, I'll say that about myself. I felt desperate to connect with people and to be connected with the world. And I don't like feeling isolated.
I don't like feeling isolated either, but I'm less the social butterfly. I'm fine being by myself. But after years of being by myself, I needed people again. That was the big deal. Okay, we're gonna end our show pretty soon. I want to get one book, music, or show recommendation on the topic of divorce or Jewish life from each of you. I'm happy to go first if you'd like.
Go ahead,
Please do.
Okay. All right. So this is not really about divorce or about Jewish life, but kind of it is. Okay. So as you know, I'm a musical theater person. I love this musical. It's one of my top favorite musicals of all time. It's a musical called Company. Now, when I tell you what this musical is about, I think you're all going to be like, are you sure this is not about the Shidduch crisis?
Okay.
Okay. This musical was written by Stephen Sondheim and George Firth, I think, in 1970. And it has been redone a few times. Most recently, it was done in a gender swap in 2022-23, which I saw, and it was amazing. This is a musical about a guy named Bobby who is 35 years old, and he's having his 35th birthday, and all of his friends show up to celebrate his birthday, and the rest of the show is essentially like vignettes with each of these friends who are all couples. They're all like married couples, and they're all trying to get him married. He's never been married before, and they're all trying to get him married. And the whole show is him trying to be like, I don't know if I want to be married. I don't know if I want to get married. I don't know if I want to give up just dating and being who I am, and whether it means anything or not. And also, my married friends are also kind of crazy and not so happy about being married. And I keep every time I see the show. First of all, the music is amazing and fantastic, and it's funny. It's so absolutely funny. But I keep thinking to myself, this is about Shidduchim.
So what's the name of the show?
It's called Company. You can listen to
Is
it on.
this still happening?
No, the tour. Well, the tour might still be happening, but it came to the Kennedy Center last year, so I don't think it's coming back. But there is a really good concert version on YouTube that you can watch that has Neil Patrick Harris as the main role. And there's also a Broadway production that was done in 2006 that you can find a version of it on YouTube also, where they got rid of the big orchestra and instead they have the actors playing the music themselves. So the actors are both acting, singing, dancing, and playing the musical instruments all at the same time. Wow. But I don't know, every time I think about how should single people, if you want a piece of theater or pop culture that really gets to some of the stuff that we're dealing with, go listen to Company. It's absolutely fantastic. The original soundtrack with the original cast is one of the best musical theater scores you'll ever hear. I just love it.
Next group outing.
Yeah, listen, I would do a watch party. Honestly, I would do a watch party.
That'd be cool.
You can have it at my house. We'll have drinks. We can watch Company and talk about it afterwards. Talk about the musical theater kid nerd in me, like going, yes,
yeah. Are you gonna like pause it in the middle and be like, okay, so this song?
No, but I will sing along.
Okay,
So that's my big recommendation. Listen to Company.
Okay, I have something.
Okay.
All right. Very recently, like a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine told me about the show called Fleischman's is in Trouble.
Heard of this?
Did you hear about it? So basically, it's actually very, very Jewish. Not Orthodox Jewish, but it's a conservative, based Jewish show. And it's about this guy named Toby Fleischman, who's like 35, and he just got divorced, and his wife just drops off his kids who are like 12 and like 8. And just his ex-wife disappears. And he's just like discovering this lonely world of like being single and taking care of kids and keeping his job and the pressures. And like a lot of these things are very relatable. And like the first 4 episodes of the show are all about him, his perspective, what happened in the marriage, him reconnecting with his friends, very relatable. But then all of a sudden it switches to her perspective at like the 5th or 6th episode. And all of a sudden, boom, you go into her, what's happening with her. What happened when she disappeared? Where was she for the last 3 weeks? And oh my gosh, when it switched to her perspective, so many things that she was experiencing, I resonated with so much more than, not like I didn't resonate with his, I did, but like the things that she had gone through in her marriage prior to the divorce, things that led up to the divorce, things that she was going through now post-divorce. Wow, I cried a couple of the episodes. I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Wow.
Where can you watch this?
I think it's on Hulu.
On Hulu, okay.
Yeah, it's on Hulu. Fleischman's in Trouble. Man, oh man, so many of those things deeply, deeply resonated. Things that happened during my marriage, things that happened to my ex during our marriage. I was like, wow, these things are close to home, and like just the complexity of like human relationships and caring about people, even like in this scenario. I think in the way the show ends over there, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but it's more of like a positive ending, whereas, not everyone has that. But I think there's so much of like the way Rivka Esther started this podcast was like, it's a little bit of, there's like a mini death, and it's like you look back on the marriage and you have a time to reflect on what happened and appreciate some of it and appreciate the struggles that you went through during your marriage that may have led up to the divorce, or even post-divorce, how you handled your relationship with your ex and stuff like that. And man, that was powerful stuff. That's my recommendation.
That's fantastic. Okay, Rivcaster.
So I don't necessarily have like specific things about divorce in general. I think, especially after divorce, I think I mainly focus on parenting because I finally like was on my own, and this was my chance to finally parent the way I wanted to and the way I wanted really to parent myself, and so I got a lot of books on parenting. But I do remember one podcast I actually used to listen even the first time around when I first separated. That was like 4 years before I got divorced, and that really hit home. That was a series of lectures by Dr. David Lieberman. I really like his style just because he's not using too many complicated words. Hey, English is only my second language. I just really liked it just because a lot of the lectures I was listening to was how to deal with difficult people, which at the time I was and maybe still am sometimes, and I think we can all relate to that. And I just like it just gave it empowered me to be able to just try again, which I did. I tried again for another 4 years at that time. But I kept listening through it, and I think it just gave me something to just look forward to maybe, and just accompany me on this journey that I was doing. And I think one of the quotes that still stays with me, and it's more of a mental health quote, but it just really helped me, and it's nothing earth shattering, but it's just really something that I think we can all use. And he said something like, the way people behave with you has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the way they feel about themselves. And to me, that was like super powerful at the time, just because I was so suffocated and I really did not know what to do, what to feel, what to think at the time. I literally was just trying to survive. And just having that realization was just like, well, that was just eye-opening. And now I really like whenever I'm deal with people who I don't necessarily get along with, I remember that, and I'm like, it's okay.
That's fantastic also.
What's the name of this
Yep.
series?
You can look it up. It's actually on Torah Anytime. And you could just look up Dr. David Lieberman. He literally has hundreds of series. He has different topics. That one was a topic on how to deal with difficult people. And he had about 10, 15 lectures on this specific topic. He has topics on dating and marriage and relationships. He's a psychiatrist, psychologist. Don't quote me on that. But he's a doctor. Not much I can tell you.
Doctorate.
But yeah, he's just really good. He's really easy to listen to. He's yeah.
Okay, well,
So
thank you everyone for listening and joining us. Please like and follow us on Instagram at the Jewish Misfits Podcast, and like and subscribe to our feed and our YouTube channel and our Spotify podcast. We also have a WhatsApp group for anyone who would like to keep the conversation going.
Join the WhatsApp group, everyone. There's crazy conversations going on there.
Yes.
and it's beautiful and it's so heartwarming to see the support that's happening there.
Please reach
this
out.
is a community. Like, we didn't get
It's
to
not just a podcast.
right.
It's a community.
It's a community.
Please reach out to us, and please make sure to give a 5-star rating if you'd like to leave a comment. Send us an
Where's
email.
this 5-star rating thing? Does it exist?
It does. You can do it on Spotify. You
Really?
can- Yes.
Okay. It's because I didn't know.
And once again, our episode today is sponsored by Crystal Clear Occasions. Event planning done right. CrystalClearOccasions.com. Follow on Instagram for more information.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.